If we take power out of a battery is like a pump.
Okay.
A battery pushes electrons out through a wire and over to a light bulb or anything else we want to run it to. If you hook a wire up between a battery and a light bulb, why won't it come on? Because, yeah, Jody's got it. Because you have to complete the circuit. So we have to hook another wire on this part of the light bulb and go over and hook to the other side of the battery. Then we'll get a completed circuit and it'll flow, okay? Well, we're doing good. So the battery's like the pump, and so it pushes with pressure. And how much pressure it pushes with depends on the pump, right? And how much push the battery has depends on the battery. This one says 9 volts, which means it's pushing with a force of 9 volts. It's like 1 pound per square inch, only in this case it's 9 volts. They're the same thing. It's how hard it's pushing. If this were a 1.5 volt battery, like a single flashlight battery is, it wouldn't be pushing nearly as hard. And if this were a 110 volt battery, it'd be pushing like an electric outlet. And if this was a 1,000 volt battery, it'd electrocute us. Okay? So that's how hard it's pushing. It's like the pump is pushing uphill. If the pump can't go high enough, then it won't ever go over the top and come down. And the battery has to be able to push enough to get the circuit going. Okay, so we don't have water flowing through. We have electrons. And so when the scientists started studying this and wanting to make a science of it, they said, well, why don't we just call this how many gallons per minute of electrons go through it then?
Okay.
Gallons? You can't measure electrons in gallons. So I said, well, what should we measure it in? And strange thing about science, whoever comes up with a good idea, we name it after him.
That's true, the science
Yeah,
is
and
like
so
that.
here's this guy, and he says, well, why don't we measure it in a thing called amperes? That's how fast it's flowing. And amperes is just someone sitting there counting the electrons going, 1, 2, 3. Of course, there's trillions and billions, but ampere is kind of a hard, big word to learn, so we shorten it to amp.
Amp.
A-M-P. And everybody ought to be comfortable with amp. Amp is how fast it's flowing. In filling this bucket, we say it's filling the bucket at the rate of 1 gallon per minute. You can understand that. That's how fast it's filling. If it fills in a half a minute, it's faster. If it's filling half a bucket in a minute, then we say it's flowing at the rate of 1 gallon per 2 minutes. So it's just how fast it's flowing. That's what amps are. Okay. It's how fast are the electrons flowing. And then over here we said, and how hard we're pushing it is called the pressure. The pressure we put on it. In electricity, the pressure, how hard we're pushing the electrons, is voltage. Some people say, oh, it's electromotive force. Yes, they're the same thing. EMF, EMF, or just plain old volts. Because again, when he came up with the idea, we called it the volts. How hard we're pushing the electrons is the volts.
Okay.
And that's all it is, how hard and how much is flowing.